Our message is very, very simple. We want to educate the kids, not indoctrinate them.
Period. End of story. I'm sick of hearing this sort of nonsense from these people.
She doesn't want these projects in her backyard, in Warringah. She wants them in yours.
Ridiculous. You know? Shame on you people. You know? You've been here for 10 seconds and you think you're going to run the joints.
And I still find it offensive because they still keep on talking about how Australia's got this racist underbelly. No, we don't.
We should be energy independent here in Australia. We've got everything.
My confidence in Australians has just been restored.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Steven Tripp. Back in the, what do we call this place again?
The Lion's House.
The Lion's Den. Thank you for hosting us again, Mr. Richard Storch. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Steven.
Samuel.
Good to be here.
How you going, mate? Been, what, about 6 weeks, 7 weeks since we had our last one?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It feels like a long time.
It does. I feel like one thing that I've been doing some bush runs and by-elections.
By-elections, yes. Seen the countryside, have you?
Yeah. Been up north. Been out west, Dubbo.
Enthralling.
Bit dry out. bit dry out there, to be truthful. I thought it'd be a bit more moist out there.
So I should let everyone know. So now, if you're watching on Rumble, you can contribute to the chat. So feel free to chat on Rumble. It's a new feature. So by all means, we want to hear what you have to say, whether it be a comment or a question. So have a go. If you're watching on Rumble, we do get a lot of people watching on Rumble, and before unfortunately we could not see your comments live on air, but now we can. So let them rip. And I should kick things off the way that we always do, just by letting you all know about Buy Me a Coffee. Now, if you want to support us here on Commanding the Narrative, you can head to Buy Me a Coffee, like some people have already done, and chip in and send us a few dollars that way, just to support us and what we're doing and show your appreciation as well. It'd be it's a big deal for us to see that email pop up and say that someone's donated. So thank you very much to everyone that has. And if you would like to, head to Buy Me a Coffee. Also, Sam, we've got our own merchandise now as well.
Really?
So, yeah, on T-shirts and everything like that. So hopefully next time I'm here in the Lions Den, I'll have a few of them for you so you can see. But if you want to head to xcandidates.tshirts.net.au, you can get your own Commanding the Narrative T-shirt. How about that, Richard?
Excellent. I'll be wearing one.
Okay, awesome. Just before we kick things off as well, I want to let everyone know about a photo competition that's happening at the moment. I mentioned it before, but for everyone that's new that's watching, head to the NREN website. That's the National Rational Energy Network. That's nren.com.au. Sam, put your damn phone on silent, please. If you hit the link here at the top, win $1,000 photo competition. Now, the whole idea of the photo competition is to take a photo of a renewables project that's in your area that may be causing some environmental damage or any damage in particular, something that you don't like about it. Take a photo, enter this competition, you can go in the chance to win $1,000. So how about that? That sound good, Richard?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so before we start, maybe just give your feelings at the moment. Are you feeling optimistic about Australia, about the election cycle, the politics of the nation? Is everything fitting into place for you?
Not at all. I think we've witnessed a lot of divisive events in recent history, stabbings and so on. The eye for eye narrative that's come out of the last one.
Yeah, well, we probably should. I'll bring this up now. This is an article that was in ABC News today. So apparently the stabbing event that happened at the church in Western Sydney where Mari Emmanuel was stabbed. Police say that 51 officers were injured in the riot that ensued afterwards, including some police vehicles that were smashed up due to the riots. I mean, it was a big contrast in that stabbing compared to the Bondi stabbing and the community reaction to it. With the Bondi stabbing, the police were heroes, and there wasn't really a public outcry There was a public outcry, but there weren't any riots or anything like that afterwards. I suppose the guy was shot dead, so what could you do about it?
Well, this was a political, religious, ideological event. So there was a completely different response. And I think that's what's worrying. And also the Prime Minister was missing in action, as always. It's like the guy's supposed to be leading the country. He's not. The
Premier wasn't, though. Did you hand it to Chris Minns?
Absolutely. Chris Minns is by far the most eminent Labor politician in the country.
And Malinowskis, I think he's done.
No, Malinowskis is second rate compared to Chris Minns.
Fair enough.
I mean, they're good mates and everything, and they're very similar. But Malinowskis has made some big mistakes in terms of the state-based voice.
So he's the Premier of
very divisive.
He's the Premier of South Australia, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, I'm quite admiring of him, but he is not kicking goals, and the goals that he's kicking are not the goals that he wants to be kicking.
And I probably ought to give myself up here. I think remember I think it was one about our first podcast, and we described who would you want in your cabinet, or the top 6 people you want, and I said a certain senator called Senator Wong.
You're a big admirer of Senator Wong. We know this.
I was.
You were.
I'm not now.
You changed your tune.
What she's done over Palestine and stuff. I think it's disgraceful what she's trying to do, stuff like that.
Well, like all true zealots, she does more harm to her own size than she does to the opposition.
I reckon she'll leave politics in the next 12 a bit after the next election.
I think your optimism is unfounded.
Yeah. I just think
she's the most disgusting cretin that's ever hit Australian politics.
Let us know what you really think, Richard.
Yeah, I got that wrong. I give myself up.
Lots of people have. I mean, she polled as the most popular and respected politician in Australian politics, and I could not believe it.
Yeah, fair enough. I got it wrong. I just thought she was a bit more reasoned and a bit more stuff like that.
I put her on par with Adam Bant. They're both the same personality type, so that'll tell you something straight up.
Tony in the chat is watching.
Yes.
Hello, Tony.
Haven't seen you for a while.
Hello, Tony.
He said, "Told you Buono was wrong about Penny."
We can always rely on you for a "told you so."
And she said Wong, not wrong.
Wong and wrong.
Buono was Wong. There's a T-shirt.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna make a Sam Buono T-shirt. Buono was Wong.
I got that wrong, Tony. I give myself up on that one. I thought she was better than that, but obviously she showed the character.
I mean, to give you an example of just how duplicitous and deceitful this woman is, she claimed she knew nothing about what was going on with Nicole Flint.
Yeah,
and that is so improbable. I mean, she's the lead senator in South Australia for Labor, as if she doesn't know everything that's going on in South Australia, or should.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was just outrageous.
Yeah.
And she's always talking about women and protecting women and women's rights. What did she do about Nicole Flint? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing. And it's just absolutely disgusting, completely disgraceful.
And Tony says, and Kimberley.
Well, we can't really go there, Tony, I'm afraid. I'd like to, but we can't really go there.
All right. Well, let's get in it. Let's move on now.
Let's actually dwell a little bit on our friend Penny. So, the whole point is that she is a 3-time failed minister. As a water minister, she was absolutely disgraceful and a disaster. All she did was buy air with millions of Australian dollars from all the cockies in the Riverina and the Murray-Darling. She didn't buy any water. She bought air. And then she was promoted into being the finance minister in the Gillard government. And that went so well. And now she's been foreign minister. You put your weakest player in foreign ministry because that's where you hope they can do the least damage. And what has she done? She's made a complete fiasco out of it. So, she is by far one of the most impactful in a completely negative way ministers in Australian history.
Are you going to defend your former lover, Sam?
I can't. I can't.
It's all true. I'm talking fact.
Yeah. I got that wrong. I thought she was a bit more reasonable and a bit more smart than that, but obviously.
She's not reasonable. She's not even smart. She's stupid. She might be highly intelligent, but she is stupid. She is what one of my misogynist friends called a dumb Einstein.
Well, I just thought she was a bit more reasonable on that and things and I got that wrong.
She can be charming and manipulative. She ain't reasonable.
But she would say that that policy is Labor Party policy.
Oh, rubbish.
Sam, can you stop?
She's a freelancer.
Yeah.
Can you hear that?
Yeah. Sorry, I got that. I just think I thought she's a bit reasonable, but she is from the left wing of the party.
Yeah, so she's missing half a brain to start with.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys were down in Cook for the by-election, but before, we're going to talk a lot about the by-election and the consequences of that and the flow on from that. But I did want to talk about this first, and you guys agreed. This is an article that I got published in the Spectator Australia recently. It's called "Is the Gen Z Backlash Justified?" Now, as well as that, I also got published in the UK in the Facts for EU.org website. So now I can say that I've been published internationally.
Good stuff.
How about that? So
congratulations, Stephen. Well done.
If you can check that article out, I all suggest you do so. But let's watch the reason I wrote the article. I don't know if you guys have watched this yet. You won't be able to see it, but you'll be able to hear it. This is a girl on TikTok, and she has been dubbed the Walmart girl for this rant that she gave on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stand how the news has been dogging Gen Z and calling them lazy for not wanting to work a 9 to 5 for the rest of their lives. Let me put it in perspective for everybody who's a little confused here, okay? I work 5 days out of the week, 40 hours a week, okay? I do not make enough to live on my own. I would not make enough to pay rent, water, electric, and eat. All by myself. I would not be capable of doing that. 20 years ago when you were getting started, you could live on your own. 20 years ago when you first started, you were able to do everything that I am now struggling to do. Let me add another perspective here. You've been working for 20 years. You have 20 years of working experience behind your belt. You have 20 years of experience in a career that has allowed you to gain raises, to get more money, to profit you in an economy that you created. You could sit here and you can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but I've been working my tail end off just to barely make it by. And respectfully, I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I don't want to work my tail end off, wasting all of my life working just to barely be able to pay my bills. And that is what you created, not Gen Z. We're just here getting started. You've been doing it for the last 20 years. You tell me how it got ruined. We can sit here and we can call Gen Z lazy all you want, but you let the economy turn into what it did. You let it all run to hell. And now it's Gen Z's fault because we don't want to work to fix your mistakes.
How could you disagree with that?
Go, Sam.
Well, what can I say? Look, there is if you're talking about housing or you're talking about cost of living, what she was trying to say, I wasn't quite sure what she was more about.
So it's essentially what John Howard and Peter Costello used to talk about, intergenerational theft.
Yeah.
Where governments of today are overspending, getting the country into debt, and it's going to make it harder for future generations to pay off that debt and to live a prosperous life that previous generations have done. So what Walmart girl is saying is everyone's accusing Gen Z of being lazy and not wanting to work, but where's the incentive to work? If she's working a 40-hour week and supposedly working hard, but she still can't afford to pay rent, she's never going to be able to buy a house, she can barely go on holiday or anything like that. Where's the incentive to work? You need incentive to work. So
I'd like to take a step back and say, let's assume that what she's saying is, even if it's myopic, it's still not untrue. Okay, but she's not looking at a big picture. She's just looking at what's in front of her. Which is fair enough.
Tony in the chat is obviously torn because first she said, I would say that she's a useful idiot. But then she says, I think she's the exception, not the rule, but she's right.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. There's an underlying veracity that her range of opportunities is reduced as opposed to someone 20 years ago. And the reasons for that, we can go into, like the fact that, our country and America have been flooded with immigrants, which has a dilutory effect on everyone's wealth. There's no question about that. And this is
a very un-libertarian comment.
Well, you know what I'm like. I'm a heretic. I get called a communist all the time. I'm all in favour of, firm measures that work in terms of intervention. To just stand by and say, oh, everyone can sort everyone out and we should just leave everyone alone is a nice idea, but it doesn't necessarily work all that well in practice. And that's a very unlibertarian idea to say.
I especially in Sydney and probably most of Australia, in the big cities, we have a housing problem.
Do we ever?
And I don't know. I can understand what Chris Min's trying to do, putting in rezoning issues around transport links and things like that. But it's got to be done because, and we'll probably come back to the by-election, but I spoke to Simon Kennedy about it last week. I said, you've got to get people to build stuff now, housing. If we're going to flood the cities with people, we've got to get housing and get people in, and people buying houses so the people got a loan, so there's a way of voting for Liberal at the same time.
If you were,
it makes people invested in our society to have a mortgage. I mean, Steve Biddulph once said that a mortgage was a noose around a man's neck, and it socialised him much better than anything else, which is a bit cynical, but I think there's an underlying truth in that.
Well, one of the quotes that I took from one of the quotes that I put in my article was that for the Gen Z people, buying a property is unattainable. So their interests are going elsewhere. So now they're valuing travel a lot more.
And experiences.
Exactly. Travel and experiences. And this is a quote from Australia's, this is Insurance and Go. This is a chief commercial officer, a guy named Jonathan Etkind. He put this quote because they did some research and they found that 71% of under 30s would rather travel than buy a house in the next 12 months. And he said, when forced to choose between an eye-watering mortgage and a travel experience, millennials and Gen Z Australians are opting for the latter. And this is largely in response to the housing crisis. The trend is fueled by the experience culture that erupted over the past decade and saw young Australians ensure spending money on stuff to making memories instead.
True. The millennials are split, though. The millennials are hitting the first home market in record numbers at the moment.
Okay.
So that again is a divisive thing, because if they don't have mum and dad to finance their deposit, then they're not really cooking with gas. And the Liberals are addressing this through their superannuation access policy. But I don't think they've gone far enough, and I don't think they're really committed to it in the way that they need to.
Well, here's another problem. Pauline has put this in the chat. She says the older generation are feeling it too. The kids don't leave home.
But at least the kids are working, and at least they're paying their way through a bit at the same time. At least they're at home.
Well, I would dispute that. All the Greens voters, young Greens voters that I saw, I suspect that most of them were still living at home and going to uni or not going to uni. So I think they're part of the rich, self-indulged, self-absorbed Gen Z.
Sam, if you were the age of Gen Z now, how would you feel?
I don't know how I feel, because I got brought up in the 70s and 80s and 90s, so it's hard to judge that in our day. Sure, there's a lot of things happen, and there's a lot of opportunities for these people too. They can leave Australia and work for a global company, or find a job on a flick of a button here. Where 30 years ago, you never thought you'd get a job in Hong Kong or anywhere around the world.
Do you feel guilty?
No.
Do you feel any sympathy towards these people?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's more not about the individuals, more about lack of policy of government the last 20, 25 years of big people want big Australia and things like that. Well,
things are getting harder, not easier.
They are getting harder.
They're about to get a whole different level of hard. If the economy starts failing, if the mining industry starts contracting and there's less revenue coming in from it, as I've said before, the only thing that makes this country a wealthy country is the mining industry, and we couldn't do more to retard it than we're doing at the moment. Whitehaven just had a project in the basin rejected, and on the basis that it's coal. Well, it's all metallurgical coal, and it was all supposed to be exported. So how does that work? I mean, it's insane.
Do you have any sympathy towards Gen Z? Do you think that they're lazy?
No, I think they're self-absorbed and ignorant. That's why I don't have that much sympathy, because they could be doing things about both of the. They could be doing a lot about both of those things, and I believe they'll have to.
I got a couple of Gen Z. I got a nephew that's in Gen Z, and he works his butt off, and he's progressing.
Yeah,
he worked hard. He works 7 days a week.
So he's exceptional in that generation.
Well, another thing that
he likes to travel. I say he works hard, plays hard.
Another thing in the chat here, Digger is saying that wages are no good now as well. They haven't moved.
Well,
that's just not true.
That's not true. Well, the government's giving 5 or 7% pay rises at the moment, and inflation's at 4%.
I think there are graphs. I don't have them like straight off the bat, which shows that the wages have not moved with the rate of inflation.
My issue is, if you want big pay rises, where's the productivity? We don't have productivity gains because our productivity is going down.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what the trade-offs, what Hawke and Keating and Howard did in the 80s and 90s. You want pay rises, fair enough, but we want productivity.
Here's a question for you. Pauline says, hope they make good voting choices. Well, who do they vote for? Where are the options? I mean, the Greens are putting forward a narrative for younger voters to vote for them.
Yeah.
It might not be the reality of what they get, but
it's great politics on this.
Which party is standing up for young people?
Yeah, but it's all bribes. It's all 20 pieces of silver. There's no reality in it. I mean,
at least it's something.
No, it's not.
What other parties are offering anything?
No, the Greens just want to steal from landlords and give to tenants.
Okay, you tell me this. What are the Liberal Party offering Gen Z?
I have no idea.
What are Labor?
Liberal, remember?
What are Labor offering them?
Nothing at the same.
What are the Libertarians offering them?
Oh, we're offering them clarity.
Oh, what? What are One Nation offering them?
Less migration.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think we'll get
less migration, less people in the country, so people can.
It's still not going to help them buying a home.
It can stem the people.
It will stem the flow.
Yeah.
It will make.
Let's bring this to a circular conclusion. Gen Z are disengaged from their own futures. They're just going along for the ride.
But that's not their fault.
Yes, it is.
Why? It's government's fault.
Because they're not engaged. They don't want to get involved. They just expect.
But they feel disenfranchised.
Well, I'm just over.
I mean, I just told you which parties are speaking for them.
I was politically engaged when I was their age.
You had parties speaking for you, offering you a future.
No, I didn't. I was voting against them.
Look, there's come back to housing in the main cities. There was an article in the Herald this morning talking about NIMBYs and YIMBYs. Have anyone heard of a term YIMBYs?
Yeah, I have. Yep.
Yes, in my backyard.
Yeah,
and that's starting to come through. It started in Melbourne about 18 months ago, and it's got up here now. And it's got a. I know for a fact there was some legislation changes the other week, a couple months ago, where parts of Lane Cove National Park is now developable now. Parts of right on the western fringe.
I got a comment here from Tony,
especially around West Lingfield and things like that.
Tony says, "I agree with Richard.
Shock horror.
There's a victim culture here also at play. Also,
yep.
The world owes me mentality is clearly a contributing factor." Well, I disagree with Tony. I mean, that's too easy. It's too easy to say that Gen Z have a victim mentality. It's too easy to say that they're lazy. There are contributing factors.
I totally agree with you. Mate. As I said to you before, we've got to. We're looking at some places. I'm looking straight behind your back, Stephen, and there's some places where we'll think, okay, in between those houses, there's bush there. Why can't we develop it?
Here's a part of my article. So this is Australian Bureau of Statistics data from March in 2024. The mean price of an Australian residential dwelling rose to $933,800.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no reason for it to be that high other than government red tape, green tape, and lack of resolve
that is
Yet the median income was 54,890.
Yeah, it's obviously obviously not adding up.
Well, that was the argument before. You said wages have been rising, but the mean income
They haven't been rising enough. Not for the inflation. Inflation on land and housing.
It's the housing. You go to I know for a fact there's a place across the road from me. It got sold within 2 weeks before pre-sale before it went public.
Yeah, they're getting sold before auction.
A lot of money.
Yeah,
way over the odds.
2.5 mil.
That's for half the house.
Yeah.
So
Tony says, does the panel recall the interest rate on a mortgage in the mid 70s? Yeah, but the difference was housing wasn't as expensive as
could have bought a house.
Tony, then you've got to go into the inflation rate, the interest, and look at what wages were, and it's a whole different equation. But I mean, living in high inflationary times, if you managed to get finance, and it wasn't easy to get a deposit for a house, then you could watch inflation just chisel away at the debt. So it was simple. If you could get into the housing market and stay there, your mortgage would be, the value of your mortgage would be completely debased over a period of 10 years.
There's a classic example. I spoke to a guy the other day on the upper North Shore, and he's 700 metres from a railway station. And under Minns' law legislation changes, the high density housing is 600 metres within the station. He's 700 metres from the station.
Well, you can tell it's going to go to 1,000, can't you?
No, well, the problem is this is on the North Shore Prime, North Shore Estate. And suddenly he's become with a NIMBY at the same time.
That's called the conflict of interest.
Yeah. But he's saying, well, what's going to happen? He said, well, you either sell up or you stay there and cop it, but you've got to make a decision. That there might be 3,000 units in that 600 metre square radius of that station, and you've got people. And maybe you've got to have legislation, you'll probably disagree with me, where when they're for sale, they are to be sold by people who are first home buyers. Restrict the market and get them in. Don't get investors from overseas. Don't get investor who's got 16, 15 places. Now, I know it sounds a socialist situation, but it's almost getting a situation where you got to try and say these 600, all these places are for Australians only or residents of Australia.
I agree with that. I think they should ban foreign investors from purchasing residential property, and that's something the libertarians oppose.
Yeah, well, my solution to the housing crisis, which I put to Simon Kennedy at the pre-poll, was that we should value everything, including all the land in national parks, all the airspace, and then work out exactly what the assets are and what to do with them.
Well, let's talk about Simon Kennedy. For people that don't know, Simon Kennedy was the Liberal Party elected member in Cook in the recent by-election. Now, you guys did a lot of work down in Cook on the polling booths for the Libertarian Party. Richard, you're in the Libertarian Party doing some work down there, and you're down there quite a bit. So you were speaking to the candidates. And also to other parties and people coming in and out. Yeah. If we look at the results here, Simon Kennedy ended up with a primary vote of 62.7%. It's 7.1% swing to the Liberal Party, which you would say in normal circumstances, that's a pretty good result. But all the parties gained. It was mainly because Labor didn't run.
Labor didn't stand. I think that was an outstanding result. I think that equals the high that Morrison had when he was PM in 2019, or it slightly exceeds it. And I think Simon needs to be acknowledged for having a really extraordinarily good result.
I was talking to a Liberal guy the other day, yesterday, and he's ecstatic by the result in respect of that. He was an anti-Morrison person, but he said that with cost of living pressures, maybe if people have come back to the major parties.
But who, to play devil's advocate, and I didn't meet this guy, you guys seem to have a love affair with him.
put aside our bromance, I think he's a very good candidate, and I think he did a very good job.
Okay.
But
I
also had a lot of
spoke to him,
support.
I spoke to him about it because he ran in Bennelong.
Yeah.
2 years ago in the federal election.
Hmm.
And I'm talking about the machinations of the Liberal Party and stuff like that, and how it was all delayed. And he said, well, I was given 6 weeks notice. And he said, that's just impossible.
You got screwed by Alex
especially when a sitting member retires, and you need every bit of time you can get.
Okay, but you're crowing about a 7.1% swing. But my devil's advocate argument was, where was the opposition? Where was someone else to vote for?
It was there. It was in the form of the Greens, the AJP.
Well, okay. The Greens,
a distraction of an independent.
The Greens had a 6.6% swing towards them. The Animal Justice had a 6.8% swing towards
and what does that tell you?
The Libertarians had a 6 point. Well,
we worked for that.
They didn't. But every party on here had a swing towards them.
Yeah, because
I mean, some of these didn't run previously, so that's why.
Labor's vote was up for grabs.
So that's the argument. And you're crying, oh wow, I've got this big swing, but everyone's picking up votes.
Yeah, because there's a lot of Labor voters that are deadheads and wouldn't vote for anyone else except the Greens.
And what didn't realise the informal rate went from 4.2% to 6.6.
Yeah.
So some rusted on, maybe Labor voters just said, Labor aren't in, I'm not voting.
I think basically it was a good result to clean up half the Labor vote, which shows that, I mean, if you look at what the Liberals got and what the Libertarians got, that tells you who basically can think for themselves in the Labor Party.
And you guys thought that the Greens candidate was a good candidate.
He was a very good candidate. He was mild. He was an old school Green. He was sort of, in his late 60s. He was very inoffensive. He wasn't controversial. He wasn't ideological. He was an old style environmentalist, I think.
Yeah.
As
opposed to maybe some of the people working on the booths handing out the how to vote cards, because I heard some stories about you, Mr. Buono.
Yeah. I let my guard down.
Well,
he's antagonising, anti-Semitic.
I did more shaking up than you, Sam. It was just in a different style.
Thank God I was the other side of the because there was 2 entrances and I was at the other end.
Yeah. But I mean, the younger Greens were all wearing, ceasefire now badges and Palestine forever and what all their other rubbish, which I found personally very offensive, and I also thought that. And they got my democracy speech, which is, we're all here for the same reason, to represent our democracy to our country and our people. And if you're not on board with that, we should be talking to the electoral officer now. So that provided a bit of a shake-up.
There was a bit of pushback a little bit from this what you get from people down the Shire. There was a couple of people said, he's not a local.
Yeah.
Simon Kennedy. There was a bit of
most of them aren't locals. Most of them have worked to get there in the first place.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, just getting the feedback from pre-polling. I did.
Yeah.
Was that on the day on your booth on the Saturday?
No, I didn't see much of it on the day.
Okay.
But it was a different mix of people on the day.
Well, I've seen pre-poll. We were there a couple of days late in the second week, which is a better guide because the first week are generally the activists or political switched on. Who knows what they're doing?
Yeah.
But were there any surprises?
Oh, lots, but little ones.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought libertarians would get 4%. AJP, the Animal Justice Party, would have got 4%. So I thought the independent would get more votes, but he didn't. He only got 5%, 5.5%.
Yeah,
and I was surprised, but I thought he would have polled better.
Yeah,
but I think I've watched him, Google him and stuff. He's a professional. He doesn't live around there too.
No, he was just harvesting votes and getting money.
Yeah,
and he succeeded. He's an accountant, so he must have done his numbers properly.
Well, he wouldn't have spent any money on advertising. He would have just done a few online things and would have paid Facebook to do a couple of things here and there. That's about it. I thought
the AJP campaigned strongly. They had lots of volunteers on the ground.
I'm surprised because
I had the mother of the candidate telling everybody that she was the mother of the candidate all day on polling day, which just about drove me spare. But I managed to contain myself.
Yeah, I've seen some AJP people, other polling booths around Sydney, and they get the emotionals into people. They vote for the. For example, generally like last time they had a picture of a koala after the bushfires, and then the Shire with that blue groper that got publicity in the television where someone speared this 200-year-old groper, for example, whoever it was, and they put the photo of him. So it's all about emotion, and that's how they campaign on things like that.
Well, the thing is, they might have mentioned that, but what they were talking about was live exports.
Yeah,
and it's like, I gave one of them a reality check. I said there's a very easy solution, and that is export licenses and bonds. There's no excuse for messing up live exports. We've got the technology, we've got the knowledge, and we've got the resources. So if anyone screws up, they should lose their shirt. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. But the Animal Justice Party, I follow them pretty hard the last 5-6 years.
You have,
and they're on a shoestring budget. They're in a little office in the inner city, and they run a national campaign all off this central office.
You're telling us they don't get big donations?
I don't know. I can't find anyone that gives money. Well, maybe they get some money from activists and things like that.
So I feel better.
Tell me this, Richard. As a libertarian, and you worked hard on the booths and stood up for the party, even the Animal Justice beat the libertarian candidate. Does that mean Emma Hurst has more status in the parliament than John Ruddick?
They've got a better story to sell than we do. It's much more emotive and it's much more compelling. We're still working out who we are. And people ask me, "Oh, you're libertarian. What does that mean?" And I said, "Well, basically, we're after smaller government and lower taxes." And a few people said, "Wow, lower taxes. That's something we can vote for."
The funniest thing was I called Sam while he was on the booth, and he was talking to me, and then some bloke came up and said, "What do libertarians stand for?"
Yeah, I know. I said, I tried to mumble. I said, "Go see that bloke down in the other end." Oh, okay.
But I mean,
I'm a renter. I'm only there for a short time. But it's a funny thing down there, down the Shire. It's a different country down there, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you kept saying to me this is like the North Shore in the 70s.
That's exactly right.
Because it's overwhelmingly white.
Yeah.
And there is a general affluence there, which is very old school Australian.
But what does this mean for the country?
Well, we've got a potential minister in waiting, which is promising, because there's not. I mean, the coalition is not overflowing with talent, I've got to say.
Coalition's got to get these safe seats and get the best person out of it.
Yeah, you've got to. I mean, no one but a potential prime minister should be in a seat like that.
That's exactly, or a senior minister.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for the upcoming election? Is this a good result for the Liberals? Would the Labor Party be worried about this, or is it just really nothing? Is it just another by-election? Doesn't really mean anything.
As the Liberal Party person told me, he said that the primary vote is what he was looking for. I said 6 on it. That was
it's a confirmation.
That he was right saying that the anti-ScoMo has gone.
Yep.
Cost of living is biting, so they've gone back to the majors. And we got 2/3 of the vote. So personally, I thought they would got a high 6. I thought
in terms of two-party preferred.
No, in primary votes.
In primary votes,
they got 62. I thought they get 66 to 70%.
No, that would have been a record.
Yeah.
Not even ScoMo when he was prime minister and he had a big personal vote and he was doing well. Not even he got that high. He got to about sort of like 60-ish.
Yeah.
So they managed to exceed that, and I think that's an outstanding result.
Yeah.
And 2PP they were 71.
71.9, I think.
That's a big vote.
Yeah.
I've put the link in the chat. If anyone wants to call in, please do so and just yell at Richard or something, please.
Yeah.
Fascinating. If I was libertarians, I'd be very happy with the result too.
Yeah.
I saw John Ruddick's link.
I think the Greens did very, very badly in Cook. I think they were probably hoping that they'd get sort of mid-30s or something, ridiculous like that.
No, I thought
I know what you thought, and I know what I thought, but that's different.
I thought they get
want.
low 20s. I thought they get low 20s.
Not in 2PP.
No, I'm talking about primary votes.
All right, primary
is the key.
Primary, they got what, 16.6? Yeah, that's pathetic. It really is. With no Labor in the field, they should have got to over 20.
Well, it proves down there that maybe that 25%, 25% of them went to the Greens. So there's a lot of lefty Labor there.
Yeah,
that went and voted Green.
Yeah,
and the other 75% floated around. Some went to the some went to the. So the thing is, where did the One Nation UAP vote went?
Well, predominantly to us.
And some would have gone back to the Liberal Party too, mate.
Sure.
I wouldn't have thought a One Nation guy or UAP would vote AJP.
Some probably did.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know, some
bit of
bleeding
independence.
hearts. Yeah, the Independent was basically a sort of voting garbage bin.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with my vote. So
And
I'll
the
just chuck it here.
sustainable party, well, they're just serial pain in the backside.
Well, I thought all One Nation voters were racist. Why would they vote for a Indian libertarian? if all the One Nation people are voting for the only was he the only
Yeah, he was a
non-white candidate?
Yeah, that's right.
And One Nation supposedly are voting for this man.
It's amazing that Greens always came out with white privilege and all that. And their candidate was whiter than me and you put together, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, he was almost an albino.
Yeah, he was an albino. Yeah, he was white as the yeah.
I saw some. I can't talk too much about it, but I saw some research done, some market research, and they were talking about the branding of different parties, and they canvassed voters that. No, they weren't saying not based on policies or anything like that. Just your overall
name recognition.
Yeah, just what you thought of different parties, and what they found was that the Greens had the strongest brand. People knew exactly what the Greens stood for.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whereas the coalition parties really struggled.
Yeah.
Majority of the responses were like, we don't know what they stand for.
Yeah, fair enough.
Is that a problem? Is that something that
it's a big problem? It really is. I mean, the Liberal Party have been seduced into trying to be Labor light, you know, for the last 10 years.
And the consequence is that no one knows what they stand for now.
And they've also lost credibility. Again, you know, what people want is lower taxes, and both the major parties, Labor as well as Liberal, have zero credibility on tax now.
So
they've changed their narrative so much, so often, and failed to deliver what's a substantive reform, that they don't have any credibility. Whereas we as a young party are assumed to have credibility until we prove otherwise.
So what does Peter Dutton, what are maybe some 3 issues that Peter Dutton really has to hammer home now until the federal election? I know that's speaking about
immigration,
housing policy. The problem with housing policy, it's a state thing. It's a state thing. It's a state thing. So it's very hard. And when Albo promises us, when he promised about 1.225 million new houses, well, how's he going to make a decision? He's going to ring the Premier and say, I want that housing approved in Campbelltown or high rises off 600 metres around the railway station.
That's just such a duplicitous fantasy. If you look at the previous Labor government's performance on public housing, they totally failed to deliver anything, and the cost of it was extraordinary. And we can thank Tanya Plibersek for that. One of the most incompetent ministers that's ever hit this earth.
Energy policy.
I think she managed to produce 1,300 public housing dwellings at an average cost of $6 million. You know, she is a fool, and she's never acknowledged her incompetence.
We interviewed Topher Field recently, and there was a very, very insightful interview. I don't know if you guys watched it or not, but
I wanted to, but
make sure you do, because he was absolutely brilliant. Blew me away with his intelligence. But what he was saying was
he's from Melbourne, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's since moved to New South Wales.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He couldn't stand it.
He couldn't stand being down in Dan Andrews land. What he what his argument during that interview was, people are not swayed by facts and emotion, especially if it didn't sway their opinion in the first place. A lot of people want to feel virtuous.
Yeah.
They want to feel like they're doing something good, or they're part of something, or they're on the winning cause, or whatever it is that makes them feel virtuous. Now, I just asked you what does Peter Dutton have to do? What does he have to take to the electorate to win government? And you guys said immigration, and then maybe some housing. How does that make someone feel virtuous? How are you going to win those people?
Immigration, it's about protecting our country, our people, and the future.
But isn't the stronger argument, we've got to let people in, we've got to be accommodating, we've got to save these people, they're refugees.
Claptrap. That is total sentimental claptrap.
That's what virtue is.
It has no veracity, and it's a ridiculous argument.
But you need to overcome the virtue. People feel
with common sense. That's not such a big task, and he's up to it.
You've seen those interviews of people that go to rallies, and it might be a rally for refugees, right? Mm. And they go up to someone in the crowd and they say, will you open your home to a refugee? Yeah, and they say, oh, no, I can't. I don't have the space. I just can't do it. Right?
There's a very simple solution.
So the common sense is saying, no, you can't accommodate them.
Well, what we should do is very simple. We should completely cease our refugee program until people are prepared to step up and personally sponsor refugees. That's it.
Yeah, but that wasn't my question.
That's my solution.
Well, funny enough, a classic example. I was at on the booth on the other day, and this girl went up to the Liberal candidate and said, why we need nuclear? Why we don't need nuclear? I said, it's a nuclear-free country. He said, well, we've got a nuclear plant in Lucas Heights.
Yeah, but it's
10 k's away.
But it's not producing power. It's completely different.
I know that, but I'm just making. But then I said to her, she walked past me and gave him a bit of a Simon Kenny, a bit of a gobful. I thought, Then I went to her. She walked. Excuse me, madam. So where's your nearest solar panel or wind farm? And she kept walking.
Yep.
That's policy. No?
Good on you.
At least you know where you stand. You heard it.
Yeah.
Well, why can't you say we need to bring in nuclear energy because wind and solar are not working, especially with the environmental destruction that's taking place out in rural areas? It's not happening in city areas.
You won't like what I'm going to say next. There was an article in the AFR the other week where the bloke from BlackRock came out to Australia.
Yeah.
And you know what he said? We might not like him, but he did say something. He says, instead of being net zero now, we're going to have energy security. So all the trillions he spent in the last 10 years around Europe and all that hasn't worked. All the windmills.
No. This is what I've been saying all along. For an investor like him, he knows he's going to get government subsidies out of wind and solar.
Yeah.
But if you're a businessman like him, what would you do? You want to get money out of the government. You want that gravy train to keep going. So you know that renewables are not going to work, but you're still going to put money into them because you know the government's going to give you subsidies. And then you also know that eventually it's going to fall over, and that's when you pivot to nuclear energy, rinse and repeat. You repeat the process. That's what they're setting this up. I've been trying to tell people for a year or two now. They're laying the groundwork for this. They're already moving to nuclear energy, and they're using the Liberal Party to do it. And I agree. We need to move to nuclear energy. It is the obvious next step. But people are going to make a lot of money out of it. And it's not going to be you and I or any of us.
No, we're going to track, but
that's a very astute observation.
I was at Dubbo the other day. I was talking to a coal miner who works in the mine at Boggabri, owned by Whitehaven. We talk about they're not giving you leases or new projects. They're knocking them all back. You know what they're doing? They're expanding their existing base on that same ground. They're going right to the boundaries now, and they're digging deeper. So that's how they're going to get away with it. And this bloke said to me, the mine the coal they mine at Boggabri, that's to feed, to keep Japan going, and they're getting some new contracts for India.
So it's metallurgical coal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're expanding the mines. They're not opening new ones.
But the problem is you got to go deeper. And the problem, I said, when's it economically not viable?
When you have to go underground.
No, he said when the coal seam, between the coal seam and dirt, it's economically up to about 11 meters. If there's more than 11 meters of dirt, and there's only 2 meters or 1.5 meters of coal, that's when it's not economically viable. At this coal mine said, this bloke said to me, this coal mine's been going about 15 years.
Stop. You can't have coal, right?
No.
Queen's Arley, right?
Yeah.
I love getting these in the mail.
Do you? Yeah.
Dear Warringah resident, 2023 was the hottest year on record, and 2024 is shaping up to hit new records.
That's a barefaced lie. It wasn't.
There was a very mild summer.
I mean, where does she get off telling a complete lie like that straight up?
As temperatures climb, so too does the cost of climate change impacts.
And how would she quantify that, seeing as she's got such a big head for figures?
It would be easy with the cost of living crisis to defer or disengage with the need to reduce emissions as soon as possible.
Bullshit.
But the reality, Richard, the reality is that many cost of living challenges, in particular rising insurance premiums, are exacerbated by the increasing risk and impacts of climate change.
My home insurance has not changed at all because of climate change. It's changed because of the way the circumstances of insurance have changed over the last 5 years.
But this is the argument.
Well, she's a moron. I mean, I don't know why you keep quoting her, other than just to annoy me. I mean, she is an idiot.
What do you think, Sam?
Ditto.
Yeah. I mean, what a fool.
Yeah.
I mean, linking all that nonsense to insurance
Richard,
actuaries and assessors.
The temperatures are going up. The cases of climate change and catastrophes are happening more and more. They're increased because of climate change and because we're putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, even though it's lower than it has been in the past.
It's horseshit. All of it is horseshit.
Richard, you're not listening, right?
You're right. I'm not listening.
The reason why we're having more climate change catastrophes is increasing insurance premiums because there's more floods.
You can get as hysterical as you like, and it won't change the reality.
But people are going to vote for this, Richard.
No, they're not.
What's your argument against it?
Just take it apart bit by bit. It's all nonsense. It's not hard. And I noticed later on she's talking about traffic stuff. I didn't hear much noise from her about the cancellation of the Northern Beaches tunnel.
No, she puts it in there, but
yeah. What did she do about it? What's she talking about?
But she'll be the one saying, "Well, we can't have a smokestack here, and we can't have a smokestack there."
Exactly, and it's like that's the most critical piece of infrastructure in the whole of Sydney. Because you can't put more people in the Northern Beaches unless that's there. And with probably light rail and heavy rail and everything else.
How do you feel about this comment from Tony? She said, "Steve and Tony, my name's Steven. I can't stand Steve. I got some weird traits about me, Richard. Steve needs to maneuver his way to a position of public debate with the moronic Stegel."
She wouldn't turn up. She wouldn't arrive.
She wouldn't need you.
I mean, you put her under any pressure, and she'd just run.
Well, this is what infuriated me. She was she was on Sky News. I wish I could bring up the clip, but I haven't got it ready. And she had Bridget McKenzie on, who's a national, right? Yeah. And they were talking about nuclear energy, and Sally was doing the same old line that it's too expensive and blah, blah, blah. And then she goes to Bridget McKenzie. She says, "Where would you even put them all? Where would you put them?" And Bridget McKenzie couldn't answer the question. The obvious answer is you put them on the old sites of coal plants where they've blown them up and just plug it straight into the grid. You don't need to rewire the nation or spend trillions or billions of dollars on high voltage transmission lines crisscrossing agricultural land.
Yeah.
Why aren't the Liberal Party? I mean, if they're really going to push this, they've got to be ready. They've got to know all the points on nuclear energy.
Yeah,
I think you'll find I reckon it'll come out in the next couple of months. I've read some stuff where housing policy and energy policy is all been done, waiting to be released at a certain time.
Yep.
When the electrical cycle comes through.
It's not the right time for them.
I'm surprised they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't do something for Dunkley. I thought they might have done something for Dunkley. Yeah.
Well, they were underprepared for Dunkley.
I was told they've got housing and energy and a few other policies ready to go.
Tony says, how can we make the debate between Stephen and Zali happen? And Pauline says, there would be no debate, just insults. Well, I've been on the receiving end of that already.
Well, it depends on the moderator, doesn't it?
Well, that is a big part, especially when the moderator's on Team Zali.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you went on a level playing field from what I could see.
well, I mean, it doesn't help when you don't have a microphone in your hand either. So,
really?
you're basically defenseless.
Mm.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Bring on round 2.
Yeah. Well,
What are you doing in Moringa? What are you doing in Moringa?
Nothing.
In 12 months' time.
And there might not even be a Moringa in 12 months' time. Do you have any insights on the read?
Nothing's come out. Moringa will exist. I still think we both agree, and I'd reluctantly agree with Richard that probably North Sydney will go.
That's not what I've heard. I've heard the opposite. I've heard that North Sydney is a federation seat, and they're not going to get rid of a federation.
Yeah, I got that argument. During the by-election, and
what are they saying down there?
And it doesn't have any substance to deny that North Sydney won't be abolished because it's a federation seat. It's not a bulletproof vest. They got rid of John Anderson's seat, which was Guida. That was a federation seat. It went, and it should have stayed.
But is Guida the old Parks now? Is that the seat that goes from
Yeah, I mean, Guida got dissembled and everyone got a bit, like New England got a bit, Parks got a bit, and Clare got a bit. But it's like that's history. But the thing about North Sydney is that it divides up into 4 very, very neatly, and I think Warringa's a bit more of a tough situation because it would basically have to become what was North Sydney in essence anyway. So you don't really accomplish anything by abolishing Warringa instead of North Sydney.
You know, there's a debate that I'd like to see if they do abolish if they do abolish Warringa and Zali Steggall becomes the member for North Sydney, and she does have a debate with the candidate, she can debate the former UAP candidate Robert Nalbandian. That would be fantastic.
She wouldn't do it. She's gutless.
I'd love to. We should get Robert Nalbandian on the show. That would be a good one to put to him.
Yeah,
be interesting.
He's been on before, hasn't he?
So Warringa,
not on this one.
No, not on this one. No.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting how they do it. It'd be fantastic when it finally down.
Look, no one's going to touch Zali. She's got such a big personal vote now.
Well, not when she can spend $750,000.
Yeah, and
no one can compete with that.
She's a protected species, whereas Kylie Tink is a dead woman walking. Fortunately.
Yeah, she's in a no-win situation.
I mean, what's she going to do? She's going to run in Bradfield?
How about this? How about this?
She might run. No, she won't run in Bendigo.
What if Warringa does get abolished?
Yeah.
Would they keep Kylie Tink in North Sydney and then push Sophie Scamps out of Mackellar and move Zali into Mackellar?
No, they'd go the other way. They'd push Kylie out. Yeah.
She's the weakest link. I always thought Sophie Scamps was the weakest link.
No, Sophie Scamps is sort
some
of
liberals,
pretty and
some liberals
and inoffensive and all that sort of stuff.
Some of the liberals I talked to said that they will think Tink's the weakest one.
Yeah, she is. She's an idiot.
Do you like any women?
Yeah, I do. I like lots.
You've called poor old Penny Wong
you've just
Kylie and
you've just picked out all my objects of scorn. You know, I do have a few paramours as well. You know what a paramour is?
No, I don't.
An object of desire.
Oh God, here we go.
Object of affection.
Well, before we get there, we should move on from there. Any closing comments, Richard? Anything you wanted to get across today?
Yeah, I think with the Cook by-election, it's it's a reinforcement of the Liberals' improving position, and you can see that in the polls as well.
Yeah. Funny enough, that there was that freshwater poll the other day where it said Liberals were at 40. And
that's
sure, but the freshwater poll always favours more on the Liberal side. But if you average it out, it's in the high 30s now. They've got to get if there's a 4 on it, they're competitive. They've got a big chance.
Tony says, he is Richard. He likes me, Steven, with capital STEVEN.
Ever the stirrer.
But you like one woman apart from your wife.
I like lots of women. As a party member said, who's disagreeing with me about the Israel-Palestine situation, she goes, "So you're not racist?" And I said, "Well, I don't have the opportunity to be racist. I'm too busy being a sexist. I love all women, and the only people I'm racist against are men." So that's my position.
We haven't called any men an idiot. Oh, maybe you called Albo an idiot.
Albo doesn't even have the substance to be an idiot. He's so useless and weak and transparent and ridiculous.
I still think though.
Who do you like? Which politicians do you like?
I like you.
Well, who? But I'm not in Parliament, so who do you
like John Ruddick.
Yeah,
I admire Peter Dutton's fortitude to put up with all the stuff that he has to.
I think he's handled this week pretty well.
He's done well.
He's hardly said a word. He stayed out in the back. Let Albo do that sort of stuff. He's come in today with the Bondi, did console, and then said a few words and left. So he's worked it well.
And what are your closing comments, Sam?
In the cook, or you want just overall? I think it's been a bad week for the country. Been terrible.
And our Prime Minister went missing in action, I think.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think Min showed him up.
Yep.
Min showed him up.
Who would you rather as Prime Minister?
Chris Minns in a heartbeat.
On the Labor side.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, if Linda Burney decides to step down from politics, and his electorate of Cogger is right, is in Barton.
Tony says Latham, but
definitely. I'd choose Latham in a heartbeat.
What about
fun if I saw him the other day.
Oh no. You're gonna have to tell me about that off air.
Yeah, he was okay. He was okay. He's calm and collected.
I mean, the thing about Latham is he's such an intellect. He's so smart and he's so knowledgeable.
But he has that big giant red button.
That's right.
Yeah,
sitting
that's okay.
there on his wall, and he just happens to nod off sometimes. Bang.
I mean, Latham is Australia's Trump, except that he's much, much smarter. He's just as confrontational.
No, I wouldn't say he's Trump.
What would you say?
He's his own beast. You can't really compare him with anyone.
Well,
which is a compliment, I think. But
I think you can compare his ability to get a response to Trump.
Why don't we? I was gonna finish up, but I want to talk about this. Richard Miles came out, National Press Club, talking about defence. He wants to spend more money on defence, but it's not going to happen straight away.
That's all smoke and mirrors. He doesn't want to spend more money on defence. He hasn't got it to spend.
They were saying that he spoke well, though. What do you?
He always speaks well. He's tricky dicky. He always speaks well.
This is a kiss of death. I think he's okay.
Do you?
He's from the Labor right. A bit more common sense.
He's actually more from Geelong Grammar.
Digger says
he's a master's son. That's why he sounds like a private school boy.
Digger says Senator Babbitt is Australia's Trump. I wouldn't say that.
I wouldn't say that. I like Ralph. I met him.
Yeah. Everyone likes him, but he's pretty much ignored.
He's gotten that cut through.
Yeah,
he's gotten that cut through.
Yeah. And that's what the media does. I mean, that's what the media does to minor parties. It ignores them, and unless they want to use you like they use Pauline Hanson, they're not going to touch you, and they don't touch Babbitt. I don't think he's ever been on mainstream media. He might have been on Sky News here.
He's been on Sky a fair bit.
But,
he's impressive, but he is a showman. He's a real estate salesman.
Yeah.
So
a
good one.
Yeah, it'd be interesting with the next.
Mm.
He's been there for the last couple of years. He's learning his way through.
Yeah.
Be interesting what happens. Yeah.
Okay.
We're wrapping up, are we?
Anything else to talk about?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time flies.
Just quickly on the Tasmanian election. That was
Tasmania.
Who cares about Tasmania? I mean, it's not even really part of the country. I mean,
got told
if
they have
we
an
could get
election every
anyone to
year.
take it, then we'd be cooking with gas. We should sell Tasmania. We'd all be better off.
I've heard it's very
Tasmania.
nice down there. I haven't had the opportunity to
They
visit.
say it's
but
beautiful.
Everyone says it's an amazing place.
Yeah, well, so what?
It's beautiful.
I don't care if it's beautiful.
You don't like anything or anyone.
At least he's consistent. No, just quick. Now we're talking about polls and the combined vote of the Liberal and Labor and the opinion polls is all about late 60s, early 70s together. But in Tasmania, both the majors were 29 for the Liberals, Labor side and 36, 37 on the Liberal side. So it's still 66%.
Pauline says, Richard, you're on a roll today. Tony says, we need to do a regular Buono and Storch and Steven show.
We do. It just hasn't been as regular as we would like.
Well, I'm off doing other things.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're very active,
Other
very
things
busy.
on at the time, and this is my busiest time of the year to do some travelling around the state, and got to do a bit more travelling the next couple of months. So we'll fit it in between. I just thinking that the primary vote. That's all. And I spoke to Craig Kelly the other week. I said, "Did you look at the primary vote in Tasmania?" He said, "Yeah, I looked at that. It's about 66%."
Yeah, it's more for everywhere else.
Yeah,
if their vote's going down there.
Yeah.
I think this is something that you brought up recently, Sam. Digger's asking, why isn't there a rule that no politician can be in politics more than 2 terms, 8 years, so they don't get corrupt and complicit and have to go back in the real world?
That's a load of rubbish. It takes you 3 years to get used to Parliament.
Precisely.
Yeah. I
You're
think
only
look at the politicians. You might hate Albo, you might hate Dutton, and a few other plebiscite and all that. They've all done 20 years. They've got experience.
But they're career politicians.
True, but I'm
there's
just
no-
saying you still need a bit of stability. You don't need these fixed terms of 8 years. Those are silly. That's just so silly.
If you want to improve the quality of politicians, that's a whole different subject. And there's a whole lot of things that need to happen.
There was a proposal that I heard the other day. I can't remember where I heard it, but instead of having fixed terms, what you might say is you have to spend 10 years in the private sector before you can get into Parliament. So
I can see the merit in that. I wouldn't dispute.
Well,
the
how
merit
does a
in that.
Labor person? How does a Labor person get in?
Well, they don't.
They're all
tough.
union house.
Yeah, well, they don't get in.
Tough. They might have to actually,
Get off their backside.
well, not get off their backside. They might have to expand their horizons and
Well, at the same
get
time,
a wider range of experience. There's nothing wrong with
the
that.
first politician that did a work for 20 years and he got into Parliament at 50 years old was a bloke called M. Turnbull.
Yeah,
That ended well, didn't
Malcolm.
it? Yeah.
yeah.
Tony says, do another shirt. Storchy's on a roll. Who's going to buy it, Tony?
I appreciate the fan comments, Tony and Pauline.
What I need to do, I need to do a t-shirt with Tony on one side, Richard on the other, and a big love heart.
Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right. Final comment, Sam.
No, obviously, I said it's been a bad week for the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, unemployment's still low, so people still
It's going up though.
0.01 from 3.7 to 3.8.
Mm.
People still paying it. I looked the other. I know I'm a bit of a data freak sometimes, but home loan defaults are still very, very low.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, all of this is leading to interest rates staying high, which is the news that no one wants.
That's right.
Especially the Labor Party.
Unless, I mean that's bad news.
I think you're even cleanly shaven today, Richard.
Of course.
Even America's their interest rates are staying still. They're not coming down.
Yeah, but they'll be going up.
Well, yes, it has been a bad week, and I need to say that Mamari and Emmanuel, the bishop, that got stabbed. Thankfully, that apparently the knife didn't open. So
he was a 16-year-old kid. He obviously didn't know what he was doing.
They said they cut his
What-
fingers off.
was it- was it a-
He's still in hospital, so they must.
Who
that must
cut?
be
Who
true.
cut? Was it the people who cut his fingers off? Did they?
That's the rumor.
Yeah, yeah.
But the bishop has come out and he said he forgives him
Yeah.
and he blessed him at the time.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's just the measure of the man. He's someone that I followed strongly during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And he's a real hero of mine. So I hope he has a speedy recovery.
Imagine if he died.
Well, I think it's.
I mean, the
would have
first
been
hit
a
was
right.
straight in the face. So
That's
thank
right. I
God.
saw that.
Yeah.
I saw it online. I thought,
Yeah.
was the knife big enough? Well, not as if it was a knife from,
Well, you
from
can
Bondi.
you can see it. So he hits him over and over.
But was
and
it-
then when he's on the
was
bishop is on the ground, he gets up and he
But-
goes, "Oh, damn it!" That's
Oh,
not
yeah, that's right. I saw that. But was it a pocket knife or was it?
There's a
prop-
flip knife.
Yeah,
What's that?
switchblade. Switchblade.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the one in Bondi.
No,
Bondi.
no.
Well, the thing at Bondi was looked like a butcher's.
It was a machete or something, supposedly.
Oh,
30,
looked like
30 centimeters it was.
it looked like a butcher's knife to me. I might be wrong.
Looked like a hunting knife to me.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Big one. So
It's just terrible. But
Good work by the copper. Now everyone says, "Oh, you go for the head." I've read some stuff where the coppers get trained. You hit the fattest, biggest part of the body. That's why they always hit the chest and chest, and so you can't miss.
They're trained to shoot to kill. And apparently the guy was running at him, so she just shot him.
There's no doubt with me, mate. He put 3 bullets. Should have been 33.
yeah, I reckon she should have put in 6. She should have emptied her clip.
She did apparently, but maybe they missed.
Although people, you read,
The account says
they all said
3.
they heard 3 bangs.
I heard 6.
No, I heard that. The stuff I read said that they heard 3 people, witnesses around the place. All this said we heard 3 bangs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, Richard, and Sam again. And we'll have to do it again soon when they do the redistribution. We can dig into that.
Yeah.
That'll be the next big event. And obviously, the election. I think that we're looking at a November election, but maybe if the interest rates don't fall,
We disagree completely on that.
He said late this year the opinion polls, and no.
but how can they regroup the how are they going to stop the bleeding? And
They're
sometimes
not. They're not going to stop.
They're going to stick it through. I think we'll have Easter's early. Easter's late this next year. Easter's the 1st or 2nd week of April. And you said Western Australia go in March, don't they?
Yeah, Western Australia go in March. So they can't do it before then. They've got to basically do it in May.
They could. I reckon he could call it the day after Australia Day and have an election that last week of February or the second last week of February. I don't think he would think Western Australia, they can't get elected on. The Liberal Party got 3 seats. They're going to win 30 seats, which is unlikely.
That'd be tactically unwise because he wants any bad blood in
Western Australia.
to flow
Onto that,
to shore up his position in Western Australia. He's sitting with a lot of very vulnerable seats in Western Australia.
I agree, but
I mean, they had such a big swing there. They got a 10% swing across the board.
So unless he calls it on Easter Sunday, and he calls it Easter Sunday night, the 1st week of April, then you got Anzac Day. You got Easter.
No, he's much safer leaving it until May, Sam. His options are running out. That's the big thing, and I think he's running out of time himself because he's not up to the job, and everyone knows it.
They're not going to chop him.
Yes, they are.
Well, okay. So
I can assure you, listeners, that at this 12 months out before the election, there's no way the Labor Party will dump on the albo.
This is what's called agreeing to disagree with that weak ass thing that people say.
I'm going to get you a T-shirt that says "Dump Albo."
They keep saying to themselves, and this is where Rudd, Gillard, all the old heads, the ones we all hate. Yeah. We said we don't want.
If you have any design ideas for us on the T-shirts, email us info.xcandidates@gmail.com and send through your T-shirt designs. And don't forget to head to xcandidates.tshirts. Let me double check that. I think it's .net. I should know this off the top of my head. xcandidates.tshirts.net.au to get your Commanding the Narrative T-shirt. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Richard. And we'll see you all next time. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.